Well, I've drawn some guidelines on my paper, and I found the center so that I could start by putting the N and the T in on either side of the middle, and then I just spelled it out in either direction, and I left a lot of space in between each letter so that I could have room to make the letters block letters and make them three-dimensional. I'm going to put the little diagonal lines in next. Okay, now that we have the word winter, I'm going to start by drawing some of my favorite things. Your snow cloud does not need to look exactly like this. You could have more swirls, make it a little fancier, or maybe no swirls, maybe just bumps. Next, I'm going to draw this cute little penguin. When I go to the smaller brush, it would be the equivalent of picking up a different sized pen. So you can get the same effect by just using a thick pen and a thin pen. I'm going to add this cute little snowman down below. This is what we call an ellipse. An ellipse is what a circle looks like as it's tilted away from you. And they come in really handy for making holes and openings in the tops of glasses. a snowflake up at the top here. Is a tree. Now that I have my favorite things drawn, the next step is to connect everything with a cloud shape. So I can go around things, or I can make the line stop right on something, oops, and then pick it up on the other side. I think I'm going to add a few more cloud shapes in just to give it some more spaces that I can do some doodling. Not going to go completely around, but I can make it go in a couple of these areas that have room. I think I might also go with a little bit of the feeling of some hills. Okay, now the fun begins. I'm gonna just try to just use my imagination a little bit and kind of look and see where there's room to add some kind of doodly shapes. I like these little swirls. Make them connect. Definitely turn your page around if that helps you. Not every line has room to go all the way through, so that's all right. Feel free to add some other little shapes or sparkles in. This little rainbow shape is an easy way to fill in a spot. every once in a while, just take a look and see what you need to add or where you need to fill in a little bit. Since this is a winter theme, you can always add random circles everywhere, just to give it a feeling of snowing. You can get a little bit of a feeling of depth if after you put the snow in, you put these lines in and you just kind of skip over the snow, and that makes it look like the snow is in front. Once I have most of my doodles in and I have my major shapes in and I have my word in, I am going to go ahead and use a thicker line and outline the major shapes and the major areas for the thicker line. This will do a couple of things. It's going to clean up some of those little bobbles, and it's going to make my main shapes stand out and give it a little bit of clarity so it's not quite so crazy on your eyes. Kind of gives your eyes some place to go to see those thicker lines. So when I go around these objects, I'm not going around every little line inside them. I'm just going around the outside of them. If you run out of room between your letters and some of them overlap, that is fine. I think that would look great. I might go with one notch bigger on the brush and do some of these shapes. I always find that it's easier to make curves this direction. So be sure you turn your paper around so you can make your curves like that instead of trying to make your curves this way. I think I'm going to darken some of these objects a little bit more. Once you get these thick lines in, sometimes it will give you ideas about where else you can add lines or shapes. And it starts to define the different spaces. So you might switch back to your thin marker or pen and start filling in those last little details or last little doodles. Making these letters even thicker. I do think I like it when they start to touch. All right, let's zoom out and see what that looks like. Well, here's how the finished doodle turned out. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of shading. This is optional, but what you would want to do is use a colored pencil or a crayon or something that you can do some shading with, and pick a light source. So imagine the light coming from that direction. Then you would see a little bit of a shadow. You'd see a little bit of shadow right there. So underneath and on the right side. So I'm just going to go around everywhere and keep that in mind. that I will be shading underneath and on the right side. And decide which parts of your doodle would be sticking out, making that shadow. You don't have to shade every single line, but just pick your major areas. Then you can decide later if you want to go back in and add some more doodle or add some more shading. You can always do that. You can always add more doodle too. So I've added some shading in this area, and these are what would be considered a cast shadow. So this object casts a shadow on the other part of the drawing. The other type of shading you can do is to create some form. So the snowman's head is three-dimensional, so you might see a little bit of a shadow in these areas. So two types of shadows, cast shadow and shadows that create form. For the three-dimensional letters, I'm adding some shading on the part that goes back into space.